Oh, ho, ho. You know what time it is. It's time for Mayday. The show about a show about the show. I'm yet to hit that. You can probably notice that the microphone sounds a little better this week. Sorry about that. If you were a watcher of our last week's episode, you saw some popping in the mic, I fixed it. So we're back. A little bit of breaking news before we get into our opening segment. That is Roman Anthony. The Red Sox have called him up. He's going to the big leagues. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a few minutes with our guest today, Danny Wexelman, be joining us, talking about all kinds of fun stuff. And Roman Anthony is going to be one of them. So I hope you're excited. Alrighty. Welcome in, guys. I hope everyone had a wonderful weekend, watched some good baseball, maybe enjoyed some sunshine wherever you are. I'm pretty sure it was pretty nice all around the country, and maybe even not outside the country. I mean, there's probably people that watch this show that aren't in America, so hopefully things are going okay for you, and I hope you're enjoying yourself. Welcome in, everybody. I appreciate you for being here. Let's get into our first topic. Oh no, guys. Oh no, our first topic of the day. My God, do I hate talking about this stuff. Okay, I don't hate it, but I do wish I didn't have to talk about it as much. Let's talk a little bit about Sutter Health Park, aka the home of the Athletics. So it's come to my attention recently that there has been a lot of articles written over the season about how not ideal the conditions are when playing at the AAA park that is Sutter Health Field, that is in Sacramento. Bunch of different reasons, bunch of different things have happened. Most recently, an injury that we will talk about in just a moment. But very predictably, players and honestly a lot of fans aren't the most pumped about this place and going to see a park. It's really hot there. Some fans have complained about the heat being pretty overwhelming and there needing to be more opportunities to find some shade in between the games. That's all normal baseball stuff. It's summer. It's going to get hot. But the players also not really enjoying some of the sacrifices they're having to make at a high level. So first situation here, first example of a player not being super pumped about the facilities and just generally, not maybe even the facilities, just general vibe and having to pitch there at Sutter Health is Luis Severino. On May 10th, there was an article released where A's pitcher admitted Stadium Sacramento is just not a big league park. Here's the quote from Luis Severino, which, if you remember, is the highest free agent contract ever given out to the A's. He had his concerns going in. He mentioned in April that he was hoping that this wasn't going to be the 3-year length of time. I mean, I would say it's more likely that it's longer than 3 weeks, or 3 weeks, 3 years rather. But it's not going to change anytime soon. But here's a quote he said in that May 10th article. It says, "This is just not a big league park. It blows out a lot to left field, and you really need to pay attention as a pitcher to which way the wind is blowing. Because if you're not and trying to attack hitters accordingly, you could really get yourself into a tremendous amount of trouble out there." So not super pumped about the conditions for pitching, which is understandable. It's a park that's usually in the PCL, which is the AAA league. The PCL is notorious for having much higher ERAs and astronomical home run allowed metrics, simply because on the West Coast there's Albuquerque, there's Salt Lake, there's Sacramento. There's a lot of cities that are located in like high desert areas. High desert areas basically have similar park factors to like Colorado. Not quite at that level because you're not mile high, but like you are high in elevation and the air's thinner and the ball goes farther in general. So it's known for that. It's known for like a 4.5 being really good. If you have a 5+ or something, you might still get to the big leagues. So all of that was to be expected, but Luis Severino has definitely noticed a difference as his ERA is approaching a 7 at home and a sub-1 on the road this year. Not ideal. But then 2 weeks later, we had a Zach Wheeler, the highest paid pitcher on the planet currently, also making some comments after a good outing against the A's, though he still seemed kind of unhappy throughout that appearance. That is not Zach Wheeler. We'll talk about that in a moment. Zach Wheeler, the mound was terrible, so that was really it. Wheeler said after a 4-3 Phillies win after the win over the Athletics, "Honestly, I felt great today, and that's why I was frustrated, because I felt great and the mound was bad." It came after an outing where he was really struggling to hit his spots, but was still able to continue his scoreless streak, which then, I believe, got broken his next start out against the Braves. But he was visibly frustrated out there and wasn't enjoying the hardness of the mound, which brings us to the last one, which you see up here. Recently, Pablo Lopez came up with a shoulder injury after pitching against the A's in Sacramento. Pablo is a pretty soft-spoken guy, and he's never one to make any excuses. So Joe Ryan came out and told it like it is for him. He said, "The first thing I thought of was Wheeler saying it was all arm when I was here. Does that play into that? Someone was mentioning it. We're all in the big leagues, and we have these amenities for a reason. It is to get us prepared and go inside if you need to for a second, whatever your routine is. You can't do that here. You can't do that in Tampa." A's, as Lopez's teammates, makes it sting a little bit more. I think Pablo is the kind of guy that's going to say the mound was, that isn't going to say the mound was the issue, but I'll say it. What he's trying to say here is if the mound's hard and you're out here and you're struggling to use your lower body, you're going to start recruiting muscles that you weren't recruiting before. This is very common in pitching. This is very common in every sport, but especially in baseball because of all the rotational stuff involved, right? Because of the constant repetition of movement, most of which is in one direction, you create this like chain that you're using over and over again. When one part of that chain breaks down, the rest of your body starts to figure out ways in order to bypass it and still maintain that level of force, of power. That is one of the most amazing things about the human body is our ability to auto self-correct we don't even have to do it mentally. Think about it this way. When you are flying like on a commercial flight on a plane, a long one, say you're flying, across the ocean, you're going to Europe or just across the United States, 6-hour flight. And when you get off that flight, you feel a little bit sore or like just a little fatigued. Like you're like, why am I so tired? I just sat there the whole time. When a plane is moving through the air, same as a car, like if you're riding on the bus, your body is naturally compensating for that movement, stuff that you don't even notice. So you're constantly trying to balance yourself. All those micro movements, they build up over time, and you cause yourself to get a little bit sore, and especially if you don't work out a lot, right? So it's the same thing, just at a very high level, and that is what Joe Ryan's saying, and he's not happy with the mound because if you can't count on a standard of play through the league, you can't do the things you need to do in order to be successful every day, which everyone is so focused on. So if you go out there and you suck in one place because like it's just completely different than everywhere else, what are you supposed to do when you play 162 games? There's supposed to be a level of trust that things are going to be the same. So Joe Ryan coming out and saying that was kind of a big deal. And he's right. Pablo Lopez won't say anything, but he is paying the price in this situation. So I was given this question on Discord, which kind of led me to wanting to answer this question. This is from Snowman. Does the MLBPA have any leverage to force improvements to Sutter Health Park before the 3 years are up? Not really. Not really, because it's one of those things that is built into the CBA in a good faith way. Meaning, if you have to make an adjustment to the park at play, right? It has to be done. You have to be agreed on by both parties, and then the team has to make a good faith effort to get it up to standard within what is possible. Unfortunately, when it comes to Sutter Home, there isn't a lot you can do. Now, the A's invested, John Fisher invested $11 million into over the offseason in improvements. Just for context, that is absolutely nothing. The problem here is space, right? So I'm about to show you what this looks like in the park itself, okay? Let's see if we get up there. There we go. This is where the dugout, or not the dugouts, this is where the clubhouses are. This is where the batting cages are. This is where the training rooms are, everything, right? It's all in left center. The only way to get from here to the dugouts is across the field. There is no path behind the wall over here. You'd have to go through the stands. So for relievers that are getting ready for the game, they got to come across the field. If a pinch hitter needs to go take some swings or like warm their body up, they have to run to center field to do it and then get like walkie-talkied back across the field if they want to hit. It's just something you can't do. So you got to figure out a way to do it in the dugout. That stinks. All right. So first of all, that whole situation is not great, but it is one of the only places in the major leagues where you have to cross the field. So that's a very minor league thing. I think that's unavoidable. The problem is this building couldn't be made any bigger. This is as big as it was when it was only a AAA park. When it's only a AAA park, that I went through there in 2023. It is tiny. Just me being an extra guy, big league rehab, I was like jammed in between two guys. It's so close. You're so close together that if one guy showers and is getting ready for the game, you got to wait. You got to stagger yourself, or you will be touching your bodies together, which also is not ideal. So space is really important for you being able to do what you're going to do. That has nothing to do with the field itself either. Like we haven't even talked about the field yet. Only these buildings, which can't be expanded. So it's already not set up to even have an amount of money that can upgrade this thing enough to make it big league ready. It was only going to go so far, okay? There's also on the field stuff that's happening. Recently, we had J.P. Sears get frustrated after a tough inning. He went and sat in the dugout, and in the dugout, there's this little like lip right in the corner of the top of the dugout. And when you sit on the top, your head is like right up against it. So he banged his head against it. You could tell he just wanted to like rip. I don't know if it's a pad. There is a pad over it, but I just think it's like ventilation or something that's just been kind of MacGyvered in there. And he just wanted to rip it. He was so mad. And I've been there where I had a tough outing. I'm trying to go down into the dugout or something, and like I can't see the lip, and I hit my head, and then I just freak out. So you see him getting frustrated about that. That's a little thing, but I think that's just him looking around like, this is stupid too. Mark Kotze has mentioned that he can't see the left field corner from the dugout, from the home dugout. Meaning there was a hit by Brent Rooker into the corner recently. It bounced up, it hit the foul pole. They called it a live ball where the guy running home got thrown out at home, and they didn't know if they could challenge it or not because he couldn't see it with his hand, with his eyes, and so he didn't get to challenge the call. It should have been a ground rule double. I believe it was Rooker and Soderstrom should have been on second and third instead of Soderstrom getting thrown out at home. But of course, they didn't do that. And he's like, I just can't see into the corner from where I'm at, which made this impossible. There's no big league park where you can't see into the corner from their dugout. There are none. So That was another thing he had to worry about. These all seem like little things, but they add up. They add up. So we have the mound's too hard. Wheeler and Joe Ryan said that. If the mound's too hard, you're going to compensate, you're going to get yourself hurt. We can't have players getting hurt. If getting hurt is part of the process, that is horrible. And the facilities aren't enough. There's not enough space. And guys don't have what they need in order to play at a big league level in comparison to the other 29 places they are. And so we see the A's are horrible at home. They're pretty good on the road. They are terrible at home. Every other team that comes in also struggles. So the quality of baseball has been dropped because everyone has to deal with the same things, which is frustrating. Now, I wanted to give this some time. I wanted to see how it played out because there was a chance that, everyone would get mad about it when it was announced and then just move on. Unfortunately, it seems to be every 2 weeks we get someone coming out and saying this place sucks. So let me finish by saying this. Is there anything you could do in the season? No. There's very little they can do in the season without building additional stuff back here. Do you see space? I don't see space, right? There's nothing you can do to improve this situation in season. Hopefully in the off season, they take some of this feedback and they try to do some additional stuff, maybe add a second story. That could go a long way. Who knows? Who knows? But I will say this. I commend the A's players for keeping a level head and saying things like, this is outside of our ability to do anything about it, so we are not going to worry about it. We're just going to do our best with what we have. But I do also appreciate when they do mention that things are tough for certain reasons, but they say, but we accept it is the way it is, and I guess we'll just do our best. And that is a big, big tip of the cap to Mark Kotze and the rest of the players, many of which I played with. They didn't have to. They could be complaining, they could be throwing up their hands and getting frustrated about it, but they know there's nothing to do about it, and I commend them. And I know that if I was still on their team, that I would be so annoying. So, good job, A's. Keep trucking along, I believe, because that lineup is pretty good and they deserve better. All right. Before we get into some housekeeping, I want to talk a little bit about the College World Series, and I am so excited to present Danny Wexelman joining the show, my co-host of Sunday Sliders on Sundays on SiriusXM. She's currently in Omaha, correct?
I'm getting to Omaha. In New York. I'm looking out at Lady Liberty. I'll be in Omaha on Wednesday with the crew. What's up, my guy?
I am great. Just trying to do what you do so well. I've learned from the best, hosting my own show. This is probably a different side of Trevor than you've ever seen. So just drink it in.
Oh, I've seen it. I mean, I've seen it. I just haven't had a chance to engage with it. So this is a whole new world. You're killing it.
Thank you, and I'm really glad to have you on, and I'm so excited that the College World Series, something that I haven't watched very religiously in the past. I am definitely going to this year, but to have you, you're the person I always ask about college baseball. So let's do a little preview of the College World Series because you are going to be there. So 7 of the 8 tickets have been punched. We are currently waiting on the last game that is between Duke and Murray State, correct?
Yeah.
What should we be watching for in that game to get us ready to watch the College World Series?
Oh, man. I mean, that's going to be a battle, right? So Murray State is fascinating. They're from the Missouri Valley Conference. So they've been a good team. They're a force to be reckoned with. They were, I believe, one of the last 4 in an unranked team that has made it to the ultimate game, right? This is the last stop before you get to Omaha. And they're going up against a Duke team that has been proven all year, got hot all year. They upset in their regional, right? They made it out. They were not the number 1 host. And so then because of that, they get to host. It's a lot of interesting storylines. Duke is a great team in the ACC. Chris Pollard is their head coach. This is a guy who's been banging on the door. Duke hasn't been to Omaha since 1961. So it's been quite a while since that team has made it there. Pollard has turned their program around. They have one of the best pitching staffs in the country. They're really deep. You'll love this. They basically deployed a Tampa Bay Rays style opener the past couple of years because they had injuries. This year, they're a little more on track, a little more traditional for them. But what they're known for is getting guys from the portal. They get the Ivy League guys to come to Duke because of the curriculum. And so they've got all these big boppers from the Ivies who are in their 5th year of eligibility. And then for Murray State, they're just really scrappy. They've got big hearts. They care about each other. Again, a Missouri Valley Conference team that is trying to make a name for themselves. And so it's going to be a dogfight to get there. But that's kind of how it's all been leading up to this point. You mentioned 7 of the 8. And everyone has had to fight really hard. I don't think anyone's had an easy track to get to Omaha.
There are no easy tracks to Omaha, as far as I know. So say we get one of these guys in, and we got our 8. Give me your top 2 storylines heading to Omaha. What are maybe 2 players you're hoping to see what they do moving forward into this tournament?
Okay, the one guy we got to talk about is Vahiva Aloy. He is the shortstop for Arkansas. He'll be the only Golden Spikes finalist. He's an award finalist. There's 3 of them. He'll be the only one in Omaha. He is a transfer that came to Arkansas. He is from Hawaii. His brother plays on the team, and he is just an outstanding young man. And to me, like, can make it at the next level, will play at the next level. And that's what everyone wants to talk about in Omaha, right? It's what's happening there, but also which guys are going to go be big leaguers. And he is one of them. He is must-see TV. What he does at shortstop, he's essentially like, the shortstop position was created from the outfield, right? He can cover so much ground. It is unbelievable what he does for Arkansas. And with their pitching staff and the style that they throw, he sees a lot of action and he does a really great job. So that's number 1. Another player I think that like is must see, must talk about TV. I'll give you Coastal Carolina. They were the first team to punch their ticket. They are back. They won the whole dang thing back in 2016, which was incredible and a storybook Cinderella. They're not a Cinderella, but they have a catcher named Caden Bodine, and Caden is going to be a big leaguer. He's not the first name everyone is going to talk about. Another guy who committed to Coastal Carolina, wanted to be there, wanted to stay through the coaching change. Gary Gilmore was there. He retired. Kevin Schnall's taken over, and they're a special story. They are the hottest team. Do not be surprised if they win the whole thing.
Bold prediction there. I'm gonna, I'm gonna take that as your favorite. Are they your favorite to win it, or they're the one that you think is going to actually end up taking it?
I'm not allowed to pick favorites.
Okay. All right.
Gosh, I mean, they have a great chance. And I will say this too, like a lot of people are sleeping on UCLA. They represent out West. There's a couple of teams that are going to be representing with Oregon State and Arizona who are coming together. And UCLA is a really, really dangerous team. They have a kid named Rock Chalowski who will also be a future shortstop at the big league level. Yeah.
That's a big league name. Yeah. If anything, that's a big league name.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So you mentioned Arkansas, right?
Yeah.
LSU and Arkansas are the 2 SEC teams that have punched their ticket. But there were 13 SEC teams that went to the playoff, and only 2 have moved forward. And take this with a grain of salt. This was a DK question. Producer David, he goes, do you think that conference is a little overrated, or is it just baseball being baseball and the hottest teams win the games?
The SEC is perfectly rated. The problem is the other conferences are underrated and aren't respected enough. The SEC does get the talent because they have the money. Like, let's be really honest, right? They have the most NIL money, name, image, likeness, right? They can give to those kids, and everybody knows it. And so if they see a kid who jumps in the portal, they can give them the money. But the ACC will be well represented. The Big 12 is represented. The Big 10 is represented. Oregon State was independent this year. And so to your point, like starting with 13 down to 2, and, it stinks because Tennessee and Arkansas had to play each other in the super regionals to get here. And nobody wants that, right? You want to see them play in Omaha, but that's how the cookie crumbles. So yeah, they're perfectly rated. It's a great question, DK, really good question. But the problem is there's not enough respect, particularly for the ACC and those teams there. And I mean, Louisville is coached by Dan McDonnell. They went through Nashville. Vanderbilt was the #1 national seed, and Louisville ran through that regional. They got to host Supers at home against Miami, and they're also a team you're probably not talking enough about. I'd say like the big theme here, Trev, is the parity this year. It's the most since I've been going to Omaha. This is my 4th year. I've never seen this many conferences represented, this many. You've got mid-majors, you've got a lot of different styles of teams represented. So a ton of parity. Not necessarily one big superstar is coming to Omaha this year, which is a little different, but the stories will be grand. I can promise you that.
Well, that leads us right into our final question, so we'll let you get out of here. For MLB fans who haven't watched a lot of College World Series, myself included, what can we expect watching the broadcast? What makes it so special?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's a massive crew of people who are in Omaha, Nebraska, right? We have a giant parking lot area that has multiple TV trucks and production trucks and hundreds of people who come out to work on this. We have a ton of cameras. We have umpires that are mic'd up. We're doing a lot more when it comes to technology. And I know that that's something that you get to do too on the ESPN side. That's a Phil Orland special, right? The technology plus the sport is growing tenfold. So you're going to get to hear a lot more. You're going to see a lot more angles. We have like really good, like the best, not really good, the best camera crews and photogs that exist in college baseball there in Omaha. And our directors are also extremely special. Like for me, when I get to go, like you literally work with the best people at that job. It's the best producer, best director, right? Everyone is at the top of their game. And so fans are treated to theater. It's absolute theater. You will feel every moment. You will be gripping whatever's in your hands, if that's a beer or a pillow or a flag of the team that you love, whatever it is. Like you will be so engrossed with what's happening. There's not going to be channel turning. There's not going to be looking at your phone. I promise you. Like this is going to be gritty baseball, good baseball, and the ball's going to fly. The Chuck in Omaha, Nebraska is a giant ballpark, but these teams can hit it out. So I think you are going to be very well taken care of these next 2 weeks.
And the guys are definitely going to bring the energy.
Yeah.
Expect that as well. Danny, thank you so much for taking time. I know you're very busy.
Yeah.
Got a big week ahead of us. So thank you for joining the show. And I can't wait to have you on again soon.
Dude, thanks for having me. Please tune in. Everybody tune in this week to the Men's College World Series. Trev, you're the best.
No, you're the best. Danny Wexelman, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. That was awesome. So go watch the College World Series in Omaha. Murray State's coming off a 19-9 win over Duke, so they're hoping to keep that going. But Duke is definitely hoping to bounce back. So you can catch that last game tonight. I believe it's today. Fairly soon. Actually, I believe it starts at 4 Pacific time. Don't quote me on that. You can go look it up. But College World Series. So excited. Danny is the best, and we will see you there at the Omaha broadcast. All right, guys, let's get back in to the show. Before we get into our news, though, we have a little bit of housekeeping. I now have a Substack. This is a new project that I've launched. I'm really excited. Basically, it's going to be the funnel where everything that Trevor May makes will be, plus a bunch more stuff. So if you're ever wondering what new stuff's coming out, new YouTube video, new podcast, new article, behind the scenes content. I'm even doing some behind the scenes stuff for other projects that I'm doing, like Trevor Throws Chatter. So you can go join it, imtrevormay.com. It is just a subscription. And I do a weekly newsletter called the Mayday Report that also gives you everything that we've made this week and maybe some other stuff that you've missed from other people that I've been watching. So it's free to sign up. There will be a paid version that will have some special stuff for you coming up in the future. But, we'll talk about that more when we get to it. So I appreciate your support there. Also, Cut on the Diamond, brand new episode. Make sure you subscribe to that everywhere you listen to podcasts with Jed Lowry. Comes out on Wednesday this week. And last thing, there will be no show on 6/23 as I am doing Sunday Night Baseball to watch, I believe it is, Yankees versus Philadelphia. Don't quote me on that either. We will, but I will see you there. So no show on the 23rd. I will remind you of that next week. Okay, let's move in to the news right now. All right, let's get into some heckin' news. Quite a few things happen here going into the final week of spring training as we get ready. News. I'm going to try to develop my skill at getting quickly through these things and just hitting them. All right?
Let's get into the news.
Oh, we're in the news, and that, you know what that means? We're talking about Paul Skeens. That's the wrong thing. We're always doing that wrong. There it goes. We can do that, and then we'll do that. Okay, I don't know why this keeps happening, but we'll fix it. It's okay. We're all good. Everything's fine. Boom. Let's talk a little bit about Paul Skeens. Paul Skeens shoves every single time he pitches, and last night was more of the same. He worked 7 2/3 innings against the Philadelphia Phillies. He gave up one unearned run on 2 hits, 7 strikeouts, and 1 walk. He was pulled in the 8th, and the game was tied. So another no decision for the best pitcher on the planet. I know I keep flip-flopping between him and Tarek Skubal, but it's a great place to be. All right, Skeens remained 4-6 in his sophomore season, even though he has a 1.88 ERA. Yikes. And he is second best in the National League behind Kodai Senga of the New York Mets. Another one of my pitchers to watch. He threw 97 pitches, was very economical, struck out 7, wasn't super worried about striking everybody out, and did what he always does. But prayer hands in the chat everywhere because it is so sad that Paul Skeens isn't getting more run support because we want to see a really good Paul Skeens. But we've had guys win the Cy Young with less wins than losses, so why not this year? Speaking of big, strong dudes who were just in college, Jack Caglione went 4 for 4 on Sunday, helping Kansas City Royals to a 7-5 victory over the Chicago White Sox. The perfect afternoon of the plate arrived after he went 2 for 21 in his first 5 games in the major leagues. Much needed out of Jack Caglione. He doubled in the 4th on 114 mile per hour double into the gap, which is premium Jack outcomes. So he's electric. He is massive. And I predict very good things for Jack Caglione moving forward. Speaking of a guy performing well or needing to perform well, George Kirby made a huge bounce back from his lackluster first few outings back from the IL, dominating the Los Angeles Angels in a 3-2 Mariners victory, racking up a career-high 14 strikeouts without walking a batter over 7 innings in a 2-hit, 2-run ball. Basically just used his fastball and his slider and absolutely dominated the Angels. Now, we can take that with a little bit of grain of salt, but I'm not supposed to be biased, so I'm going to reel that back in. He matches Max Meyer with the 14 strikeouts for the most in any game this season, and he looked really good, and the Mariners definitely needed it. He dropped his ERA from an 8.56 to a 6.53, while looking more like the George Kirby of old. Hopefully for Mariners fans, myself included, I hope we see more of this moving forward. In not so great news, the Braves be scuffling once again. Mike Yastrzemski rove in 3 runs as the San Francisco Giants extended their winning streak to 5 games as they swept the Braves at home. The Braves have now lost 14 of his last 17 games and have fallen to 27-37 in the NL East. Now we are only 60-something games into the season, so would not hold your breath that the Braves are going to constantly be in the 4th place in that division. I have myself seen it in person. I will never believe that the Braves are not on their way back because I have trauma, okay? So, but things have not been good. Spencer Strider still looking to come back to form after having Tommy John surgery, to picking up the loss in last night's game. And one positive note, though, in those 17 games, they've only been outscored by 8 runs, which is odd, which is an odd thing. Imagine only being -8 in run differential, but being 3-14 in record. That means it's probably not sustainable. So keep your heads up, Braves fans. And more Braves news, though. Craig Kimbrell was called up And I was super excited. Craig Kimbrell getting called up by the team that he has amassed a lot of his stats for, and he is a Georgia boy pitching for his hometown team. And then he subsequently, immediately, DFA'd after throwing one scoreless inning, walking one, and I believe he struck out one, walked one, and gave up one hit in a scoreless seventh inning. And then was DFA'd directly after. Now he signed this March to a minor league deal and was sent to Gwinnett, held on for his opportunity to get the big leagues, and went up for 1 day. Now, this is an odd situation and not something that usually happens, especially for a guy who's very clearly going to be a Braves Hall of Famer at some point. Usually you don't call a guy up knowing that you're going to DFA him after he throws one inning if he is that level of guy. You usually call up somebody else and you wait for a spot to open up long-term for Craig Kimbrell. So that kind of was, it felt weird to me. That felt weird to me. That's usually not how these things are handled. However, like I mentioned, he is a Georgia guy. Maybe, just maybe, he's cool with it. He wanted an opportunity to go pitch for him, and he just wants to be close to home when he's continuing to play baseball here in the twilight years of his career, which I respect wholeheartedly. So I don't know all the situations, but I just want all the details. But I just want to kind of give the context that usually for a guy of that stature, this is not the way that calling them up is handled. So I got a little bit taken aback by that. Our final piece of news, because we didn't talk about Roman Anthony, so we're going to talk about him in a moment. We're going to talk about the Red Sox. We're going to talk about the Red Sox, okay? First piece, Mr. Hunter Dobbins said before his start last night that if it came down between the Yankees and every other team, and the Yankees were the only ones that offered him a contract at any point, he would just retire. Dang. I like the fire there. Jazz Chisholm then took to X to say, hey, I think that we need more trash talk in the MLB. If you want the smoke, you'll have it at 7. Kind of playing up with that a little bit. I'm a big fan of Jazz and the way he approaches this stuff. He's having a lot of fun and he's unapologetic about it. But I also like that Dobbins is like, you know what, I'm going to throw that out there and make this a little spicy. Spicy it was. The Red Sox end up taking the game 10-7, and Dobbins ends up taking the W. Now, did he give a homer to Aaron Judge? Sure. Were there a lot of homers hitting the game? Absolutely. Was it a little bit of a slugfest? Yes. But I respect the hell out of that. But more positive news. Don't have a picture for this, but you guys know who it is. Marcelo Meyer. Oh, sorry, not Marcelo Meyer. He's already up. Roman Anthony, big leaguer. He is in. He is up, and he is hitting, as per Ken Rosenthal, batting 5th tonight because he can hit the ball 500 feet. I don't know if you heard about that, but a couple days ago, that is what he did. I am excited to see what he does and see if this whole thing, the clamoring, is worth it. Now, I hope he doesn't feel like he's got to do everything right out the gate. Hitting is not the thing that they are struggling with the most. It is definitely out in the field and on the pitching side of things, but I think the game is better off when the number one prospect is in the big leagues. And that was today's news. Now, we're going to be moving on to my main topic of the day, but before we do that, a word from our sponsors and the other dudes over at Foul Territory.
An investment in your hair is an investment in yourself. It's summertime, and if you're feeling like the hair's getting a little thin and you want to add a little thickness to it, within 3 to 6 months, there's no better place to go than
Nutrafol. And why wouldn't you? It's not like some chemicals you're putting on your hair, in your body. It's a natural supplement. Think of it essentially as vitamins. And you get a little bit more confidence because you got thicker hair.
Exactly. It's a big deal, and we want you to start your hair growth journey with Nutrafol for a limited time. They're offering the FT fam $10 off your first month's subscription, plus free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and you enter promo code FOUL. Find out why Nutrafol is the best-selling hair growth supplement brand at Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code FOUL. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code FOUL.
Consider my interest piqued. Let's just put it this way, guys. I might take him up on that offer. There's a reason I wear my hat a lot. All right, let's move into our main segment of the day. This is Maysplaining.
Rapsodo and Hawkeye all tell you this information. Paul Skeens has added 2 pitches to his arsenal going into 2025. No! Don't do it! Don't!
Buckle up. It's time for some Maysplaining.
Great tune, great tune. This is Maysplaining, and this is about Tommy John surgery. Specifically, recently, actually last week, we covered Corbin Burns and the comments he made as he walked off the field. This is before he had his MRI, and we knew what was to come, but it turns out Corbin Burns, the big signing the 6-year deal, the Arizona Diamondbacks, is about to miss the next at least 162 games with UCL reconstruction surgery. And that sucks. We lost Garrett Cole earlier in the season. We lose a lot of studs, especially free agent studs, at least once in their career. It feels like it's happening more and more and more, right? We don't actually know. Actually, we do actually know. I'm about to tell you all about it. But fortunately, Tommy John, the connotation of needing Tommy John as someone who has got it also, I had it in 2017. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Is no longer, I think, super dreaded because of the effect it has on your arm. So I want to get into a little bit of the nuts and bolts of what happens in Tommy John. How, all these different variations of the surgery, like what is under the umbrella of the surgery anyways, and we talk a lot about the causes and the things that, players can do or not do in order to avoid the surgery, but it's becoming a foregone conclusion and quickly. And it's not about whether or not you're going to come back, at least after your first go on the merry-go-round. It's not so much about whether or not you're going to be able to come back and be effective, because that is getting better and better and better. It's about the time that you're missing, how long it takes to go from A to Z through that process. That is the worst part. That was the worst part for me. I have no problem doing the physical work. I have no problem keeping focused. I had problems waiting. And I think that's the thing that bothers most players, but I think the people it bothers maybe the most in the entire situation is the fans that lose the best pitchers in the league and don't get to watch them it takes so long that they might even forget that they're there. So let's talk a little bit about the ins and outs of Tommy John surgery. Okay, so we talked to Corbin Burns, went down, said, my elbow's toast. He knew immediately. He knew that something was wrong, and it wasn't, you go out there, you feel a twinge, you throw a couple pitches, it kind of goes away a little bit, and then you're sore after the game. That is different. When you feel something and it keeps feeling that way and it's only getting worse, you know something probably broke. And if something broke, that is not a very good feeling. So this is the definition of Tommy John, okay? As this is from MLB.com's glossary, if you guys want to go see it, and this is the first paragraph. It says, Tommy John surgery is a procedure in which a partial or fully torn ulnar collateral ligament, aka the UCL, on the medial side of the elbow, which is the inside of the elbow, is replaced with a tendon from another part of the patient's body or from a cadaver. Now, I didn't think that this definition was going to end with the word cadaver, but here we are. For example, the 2 places you can get your tendon taken from are either your wrist, not everyone has a tendon that's big enough in your wrist, or part of your hamstring that wraps around the inside of your knee. Unfortunately, that's the one your boy had. So the reason those 2 places, I'm not going to get super into it, but the reason those 2 places are the places to go with is because they basically more or less regenerate, not technically, but to where they function and it doesn't affect your ability for those parts of your body to move normally. Think of it as a chameleon's tail, just not as directly growing back as that. You can compensate in a positive way to where there's no lasting impact on you one way or the other. I will say, getting at your gracilis out of your hamstring sucks. We'll talk a little bit more about that. I told you a little bit about the recovery and why people aren't so worried about it when they need it. In an article written by Ronald Blum of the AP News, it says, in the 50 years since Dr. Frank Job's first Tommy John surgery. He is the doctor that invented the procedure. The operation has saved careers and earned fortunes. Los Angeles Dodgers head team physician Dr. Neil Elitrosh, who happens to be the person that is about to do Corbin Burns' surgery, estimates about 80% of the pitchers return to their previous level of competition at least. So at least 4 of every 5 guys are going to get back to where they were on the first time around. Boston Children's Hospital, which does a lot of these surgeries on the younger generation, because that is actually a lot of the surgeries, reports that it might be even higher, up to 90%. And in that 80%, they said almost every single guy at least competes again at some point. Like, very rarely are guys just done pitching in games after Tommy John surgery. It just doesn't happen that way anymore, which is a great thing. That is a phenomenal thing. But like I said, it's the recovery time, okay? It's the recovery time. Unfortunately, in a 2023 article written by the American Medical Association confirms that 35% of active players have gotten Tommy John. This is major league players. Of active major league players have gotten Tommy John at some point. That's 1 of every 3. 1 of every 3 pitchers right now has gotten Tommy John. That's nuts. With some estimates saying that the going rate could reach 40% very, very quickly in the next couple of years, which will mean 2 of every 5 players will have had Tommy John at that point. And the longer that you pitch, the higher the chances are that you will get it, which leads us to the Corbin Burns and the Garrett Coles of the world. Those guys are in their 30s when they sign free agency, and they've been pitching for a while. Chris Sale was a great example as well. That guy went like 8.5 years without getting hurt because he's like Gumby. But eventually, you will break something, probably. There is a very good chance because of the level at which these guys are exerting their body on a regular basis, okay? It's just a higher chance the longer you play. So, I got TJ, all right? I got TJ. And it happened to me in the middle of a game on an 0-2 curveball to Andrew McCutchen, which I then threw 3 straight balls after that and walked him, which then I got chewed out about later. We don't walk guys after going 0-2. Well, you know what? My elbow's gone, so leave me alone. This was against the WBC team that was getting ready to play in the tournament in 2017, and I blew out, okay? That's when I learned that you need Tommy John, and I had all the different versions of this explained to me. So this is all of the different procedures that can happen that are considered Tommy John, okay? We have the Job technique. We already mentioned him, which was the first one that was invented. It involved like drilling into bones and like figurating a new tendon in and out of your elbow. Sorry to be graphic, but that is what was happening. And then we had the docking technique. Pause. Docking is a refinement of the Job method where you're just kind of attaching it onto the bone as opposed to drilling through the bone, which caused other structural issues if not done correctly. Also, the drilling, there's a nerve that's with the tendon that they would have to move. There's a lot going on, and they wanted to stop doing that, okay? Then there's the modified Job technique, which is less invasive. They stopped using like all the other stuff up in the arm, leaving that to go. So they were able to isolate it. And then we have revision, which is just getting it again. Basically, it's just cleaning up the old one. We have repair and internal brace. That's the one you hear a lot. Basically, they repair the one you have now, and then they add a brace underneath it to help fortify the structure of it, which is really popular because the rehab is much faster, and so is the healing. And then we have hybrid repair reconstruction. So sometimes they put partial brace in and they put the blah, 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 whatever. I had something similar to that where my tendon actually avulsed, so they docked it, and then they had already taken out my gracilis, so they just put it on top. So I technically have like a double UCL, and it's very unlikely that I tear that thing again. And if I do, that's on me. And then we have biologic augmentation, which is PRP. So you get an injection and of stem cells, and you hope that it heals itself. So like those are all the things that we have now. The last 2 we barely even had when I got it. So these are the ways these things have gone. They have changed a lot, but when I blew out, it was as cut and dry as possible. They were like, hey, it's gone. So we got to fix it. And then they ran me through all these things. And as you can imagine, it's very scary. But once you kind of wrap your head around it, then you got to deal with how long it is about to take. So let's talk a little bit about the timeline. So this is a normal timeline for Tommy John surgery for those of you that are big Corbin Burns fans, Spencer Strider fans, or Garrett Cole fans, okay? 4 to 6 weeks, early rehab. That's when you see guys in the brace. The brace is at 45 degrees. I'll show you right here. And then over time, every couple weeks, you straighten it out because the number one thing they want to get is your flexibility back to where it's supposed to be. Full disclosure, when I had that brace on, I would wake up in the middle of the night sometimes and the lock would just be open and my arm would be like this. It'd just be straight. And I'd be like, put it back. And I thought I was doing something I shouldn't do. But at the end of that, I believe it's about 8 to 12 weeks. At the end of that, you get to take your brace off and then you get to fully straighten it out for the first time. And I was like, oh, I'm fine. So I had no issues with that at all. There was no atrophying and I didn't have to worry about it, which is great. A lot of guys do. The one thing that did suck though, my knee. So the gracilis coming out of your leg, that was the worst part ever. I came out of the surgery and I was like, what happened to my leg? Did you guys take my leg? Where is my leg? And they're like, no, it's there, just can't move it. So I had to rehab that as well. You have to do hamstring curls and stuff to the point where you think you're moving and you're not. It is the most painful part. Being in an arm brace and then having the opposite leg wrapped up and then trying to walk with one crutch, maybe the hardest thing I've ever done. So I would highly recommend you avoid this with every fiber in your being if you can. So moving on, 4 to 6 months, you ramp out your workouts, you start to work on your mechanical work without throwing a baseball. So this is what you hear when a lot of guys are like, I want to clean up my mechanics. I want to fix things that I wasn't able to fix while I was playing. This is when you do that, okay? So there's a lot of dry work. It's a lot of just standing on a mound and doing like leg work. It's about doing workouts to fix your hip rotation and fix your flexibility and all this kind of stuff. Unfortunately, sometimes it gets a little bit robotic and repetitive and you get very like methodical in your motion, which I will talk about in a little bit. But then after about 6 months, you get to start throwing the baseball again and feeling your body once again. And this is maybe the hardest part. Like you're so close. You're on a field, you're wearing cleats again, you're on a mound again, and you can actually start to throw. And that's where a lot of guys have struggled to put their foot on the brakes and take it one step at a time. I was one of those people, but fortunately, this process was happening in the off season. So I didn't have games to watch and get all like fired up to go and play, right? Justin Steele, I don't know if you guys have seen the videos of him watching baseball in his brace, but he's like pacing around like he's just like wants to punch somebody, and I love it. Okay? And then 10 to 18, you're fully competitive return. You're going back and you're doing rehab appearances, depending on where you are in your career. You're hoping to get back quickly. Internal braces are faster, full reconstructions are slower, and it could be anywhere from 10 to 18. It took me 16 months to get back to the big leagues. And that sucked. But some guys go faster, which you'll have to basically play it by ear and see what you can do in order to get yourself back to 100% and then help your team as soon as you come back. Because there are some common issues that come up when you have Tommy John. And we have 2 guys right now that it's pretty stark with. And let's talk a little bit about them. One is Sandy Alcantara. Okay, so here's the main struggles when you try to return from Tommy John. Some things to pay attention to that aren't, I don't think, red flags for long-term struggles. I think they're just part of the kicking off the rust process. So here's the things that really that tend to happen. Sometimes your mechanics can get really robotic, and you're not pitching as athletically as you used to, and that might diminish your stuff. So like you're not throwing with the ump anymore, and that could be subconscious. That could be worried about getting hurt again, but a lot of times you just get really robotic because you can't remember what it's like to just go compete, not think about your mechanics. That is something I saw a lot in the minor leagues, and guys really hurt their careers with that. Sometimes you have diminished stuff. You look up at the velo, you just don't see the velo, and things don't feel like they're moving like they should because your velo's not there. I will say Spencer Strider is in this group, right? He's used to throwing 98, he's throwing 95, his four-seam fastball is getting shellacked, and he's not used to that happening, so he's relying on his slider a lot. He's been a two two-pitch guy for a really long time. Those two pitches aren't quite where they need to be, though I do believe they're going to get back there. So he's learning how to use his other two pitches, his curveball and his changeup, to effectively get guys out while he waits. This is the dance, okay? The Braves are 10 games under 500. Spencer Strider knows he's a big part of them being successful, and he needs to contribute. But he also knows that he's not at 100% yet. So what do? What adjustments can you make if you look up and you see 94 instead of 98? That is what we're going to notice with Spencer Strider. Now, one thing I'm excited about is I think Spencer Strider is a very smart guy, and I think he loves the concept of pitching, and that we're going to see a new, different version of him for a bit, and then once the dominant version gets back into the forefront, he's going to lean back in there. But I'm interested to see how he makes adjustments. Sometimes your command gets messed up, which is happening to Sandy Alcantara. His stuff's fine. His velo's the same. Everything breaks the same. He's just not throwing it where he's not used to throwing it. That's another thing, that you're a little rusty. You're used to just like not having to think about something and having the ball go where it's supposed to go. That's something he's struggling with right now, and both these guys are really, really feeling it right now with their statistics and their performance on a major league mound, but both of which are normal. They're things that always happen. And neither team has a lot of luxury to like let them go hang out in AAA for a bit longer or whatever, because the Braves need to win and the Marlins need to trade Sandy. So they need them to play well. But if I were a betting man, I would bet on both of these guys getting pretty close, if not all the way, to their previous form at some point this season. And then the final thing is sometimes you're just hypersensitive and you're actually worried about getting hurt. But like I said, that's not a thing that's happening near as much anymore, because because the numbers have come out that like feeling stuff most of the time doesn't mean what they feel like it's going to mean, and people get over that much faster. 5-10 years ago, that was a bigger issue. Right now, it's not a huge issue, okay? So, why are people getting hurt? Let me quickly touch on this because we gotta put that in. Here's the deal. Pitchers know how to optimize themselves at the highest level. We are seeing more pitchers reach their ceiling faster than we ever have in the history of baseball. Okay? What that means is more effort put into more pitches in order to stand out in that way. That is not by its nature a bad thing, but it is a function of incentives being attached to effort, which is going to raise the risk of getting hurt. That's just logic, okay? Dr. Keith Meister, who did mine, has been very public in talking about how he thinks sweepers, a different way of spinning the ball, a different arm pattern that guys aren't used to, contributing to this and being a huge contributor to that. I think that's probably true. I also think that fastballs are contributing to it. I think that everyone's different, and where they put stress on their arm is different based on how they throw, but the effort is the thing that is constant, okay? So reining it in is the logical change in order to keep guys healthier. Now, you can do that as a starter a little bit. Like we see it with Zach Wheeler. He takes the foot off the gas a little bit sometimes, and some pitchers are kind of reverting back to that situation in order to get more out of themselves. But for the most part, young guys trying to get to the major leagues, that is not a luxury they can have, because they have to show how projectable they are and they can get big league hitters out. And showing off 101 is the way to do it. Fortunately, reining that in and taking away from that incentive from guys who aren't in the big leagues yet, very likely is not going to happen anytime soon. And chancing getting hurt is going to be the path that most guys take, because it just makes sense. Okay? So here's what I see happening. Okay? Here's how I see things changing a little bit, and the narrative changing. Teams will begin factoring in surgery as a likely option for older guys, especially the Garrett Coles and whatever. And so the contracts are going to be built with that year in mind. If they haven't had Tommy John and they're 33, 32, and we're signing them to a 4-year deal, there's a very good chance that they're going to need it at some point in this period of time. And that is factored into the contract. It's probably already started happening. It is just one of the things that happens with baseball. It might not happen, but it's more likely to happen, in my opinion. Believe it or not, 2/3 of all reconstructions are done on kids 16 to 20 years old, non-professional players. It all comes back to the incentives and guys pushing themselves so hard so they can play at the next level. We have to find a way to divorce these incentives for pushing yourself too hard from being able to move on to the next level. But I don't know how to do it, but that is what needs to happen. And unfortunately, it's really hard to do. So, what can a player do on their own in order to make sure they are in position to stay healthy? Make sure you are warming up sufficiently and the whole kinetic chain is working as it should. And then take your recovery extremely seriously. If you're sore, take a day off from throwing, because it's not about throwing through soreness, it's about your body changing because you are sore. And if you don't pay attention to that stuff, your body will start to shut things down and you will not be conscious of it. And that is what causes his injury most of the time. So take warming up extremely seriously and take recovering your arm extremely seriously. And you'll put yourself in a position to avoid this, at least until there's a saying in professional baseball. If you're going to get Tommy John, get it in the big leagues. And that's what I did. Tommy John sucks. Let me know down in the comments what you think. And that's it. Don't get Tommy John. Avoid it if you can. That concludes hour one of Foul Territory on the Foul Territory Network. I will see you in just one moment over on Trevor May Baseball. If you're joining us on YouTube, guys, make sure you sub on the way out if you're going to follow us over. And if you're going to hang out here, there's lots of Foul Territory content to check out as well, so make sure you do that, all right? I will see you in just a couple minutes over there on Trevor May Baseball and Twitch. Just hang out, go refill your water, and I'll see you in just a moment.